So the Pittsburgh Steelers signed Deshon Elliot, their safety, to a 2-year, $12.5 million extension. A lot of Steelers fans are pretty happy about this deal. It's pretty cheap, as you can tell, 12.5 mil over only 2 years, so only 6.25 per season. Pretty good bargain. Deshon Elliot, in my opinion, isn't really a well-known player or anything like that. He's not really a household name like his teammate Minkah Fitzpatrick, but he did have a really good season in his first year with the Pittsburgh Steelers a year ago. He finished with a career-high 108 tackles with 6 passes defended, 4 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. So a pretty good debut for Deshon. The Steelers were obviously impressed with that, and they rewarded him. So good for Deshon Elliott and the Steelers. He was entering the final year of his contract, so that's why they got this done early. And it's a pretty good business move for Pittsburgh, because if he continues to grow as a player, and if he even puts up better numbers in year 2 with Pittsburgh, he probably would have commanded a lot more in the 2026 offseason. So smart play from the Steelers front office to just get the deal in the books right now. So if you're a Steelers fan, let me know how you feel about this move. And it's kind of like a feel-good story. Deshon kind of bounced around the league for a hot minute. He had stints with Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins, then Baltimore, and then in 2024 he arrived to Pittsburgh. So for the first part of his career, definitely a journeyman. Now he finds his home in Pittsburgh. So good for him, man, for real. And going into the 2025 season, the Steelers' secondary looks like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, and Deshon Elliott. And because of this recent deal, a lot of Steelers fans are still asking, when are they going to get the deal done with TJ Watt? That's really the biggest question for the next couple of months, and I'm hoping they get it figured out quickly, because I want the Steelers to have a pretty good year. I think it'd be pretty cool if Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin went out on top. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl or even make a Super Bowl appearance, but it'd be pretty cool if they made like a pretty deep run in Aaron Rodgers' final year in the NFL. So I'm hoping they get the TJ Watt contract figured out soon, and I'm sure they will. You know, the Steelers organization has been pretty competent over, since the NFL first merged with the AFL. One of the most historic franchises in the NFL and one of the most successful franchises in the NFL. So I have faith that they will get a deal done. Is TJ Watt still the best pass rusher in the NFL? Probably not, but I still think he's a top 10 pass rusher for sure. Now, TJ Watt skipped the Steelers' mandatory minicamp a week ago, so like I said, I hope it doesn't go on into training camp, because once you start missing time, once it's training camp, a lot of fines come in, and it starts to get really ugly for both sides pretty quickly. So if you're a Steelers fan, definitely be crossing your fingers that they get a deal done in the next couple of weeks, because training camp is right around the corner. So definitely stay locked in with that. He's entering the final year of a 4-year, $112 million extension he signed in 2021. And honestly, man, I don't blame TJ Watt for skipping out on minicamp or training camp. He's definitely not an older player, but he's been around for a minute. Has definitely suffered a lot of injuries, and he comes from the Watt family. I feel like him and JJ Watt aren't injury prone, but they're definitely susceptible to a lot of injuries, and TJ Watt has definitely accumulated a lot over the years. So for him to potentially hurt himself in minicamp or training camp while he's trying to get probably the last big deal of his career, definitely a good move to skip out until pen hits paper, in my opinion. If I really had to make a prediction, I think they're going to get a deal done right before training camp starts. So probably the first week of July. I just feel like they would want to get it done and just both sides are probably going to be pretty aggressive because I'm sure adding Aaron Rodgers, TJ Watt is probably a little bit fired up to really just have a hell of a season in 2025. And for me personally, this is probably the most excited I've been for the Pittsburgh Steelers in a hot minute. I'm definitely going to be tuned in to every game, especially early on in the season. I just hope Aaron Rodgers can really turn back the clock a little bit. You know, now it's 2 years removed from blowing out his Achilles, so hopefully he's a little bit better. I know statistically he was good last year, but I just want to see a little more pop to his game. I want to see him take chances. I want to see him throw the ball down the middle of the field, kind of like that old Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? And I feel like Steelers fans are also coming around with the idea of Aaron Rodgers being their quarterback. You know, prior to him signing, a lot of them were very pessimistic. Now I'm seeing a lot of them kind of jumping on board and whatnot, and they should, because whether or not you like or hate Aaron Rodgers, there's no disputing that he's one of the most talented QBs to ever play the game, and he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. You kind of got to respect him in that sense, and you kind of got to be thankful, and this is the farewell tour, so like I said, hopefully it's a pretty one. Hopefully he doesn't get injured. I believe, he's 41 now. So that's really the only thing I'm concerned about for this season. But then again, hopefully, if it's only like a minor injury he does potentially suffer, I do trust Mason Rudolph to step in for a game or two. You know, he had some success with Mike Tomlin earlier in his career to a certain degree. So, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And I'm very fascinated to see how good of a connection him and DK Metcalf can create in only a couple of months. You know, when DK was in Seattle, I was a fan of his game early on in his first 2 years in the NFL, but since then, man, definitely has stone for hands from time to time. Obviously, he's a beast physically, but as a complete wide receiver, I feel like his route running ability is definitely underwhelming from time to time. And like I just mentioned, I feel like he has a lot of key drops. So I'm hoping first year with a new team, he's rejuvenated. He could go back to being prime DK Metcalf, because I really feel like his first 2 years in the NFL, he looked like he could maybe be like a top 10, top 15 wide receiver one day. But since then, I don't know, I just feel like he kind of plateaued to a certain extent. So yeah, man, let me know what you think about the Deshon contract, and when do you think the Steelers will get the contract done with TJ Watt, and how do you feel about them in general going into this season? Let me know in the comments below. If you've made this far, please subscribe, like the vid, it'd help out your boy a ton. That's all I got for right now. Peace.
That's hard to do as an offense, to march down the field like that and overcome so many situations.
Mason lined up in the backfield. Here's the handoff. Mason's tackled down at the 32. He's got over 110 yards rushing on the day. We're late in the fourth, and the offense is just trying to sit on the lead. Running right through the trenches. One team's running the football, the other is passing, but both are working with their game plans.
Yeah, they both are working. As you look down there on the field, one set of running backs are really happy. On the other side, the wide receiver group, they're really happy. So as long as you get it done, that's all that matters.
The Jets from the 32. And he's going to be sacked. So just 3 plays and out for the offense.
Well, that time the quarterback is sacked on the 3rd down, and that's, of course, that's bad. But
back now in this one, and time is running out here in the 4th quarter. First down at the 20. Looking for some daylight up the middle. The Chiefs stop the clock in a hurry, trying to hold on to every precious second. And it'll be 2nd down and 6 after the running play on 1st down. Dropping back now into the shotgun. Getting away from the pressure.